Hello, everybody. James Rink here. It is May 22nd, 2019, and today I have Jessica Marrocco. And Jessica is a clairvoyant seer, psychic who is able to communicate with different extraterrestrials as well as interdimensional beings. So welcome, Jessica, to the show. Are you there?
I'm here. Hello, James. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining us. And so usually we have Peter with us, but he's not able to make it, or maybe he will make it. I don't know. It's a big maybe, probably maybe not. But we do have a lot of information to share with you today. And one of the few things on the agenda, maybe we should start off with some of the most recent current events. Like, for instance, I mean, a lot of people have been dying recently. I'm sure some of the listeners have heard that Stanton Friedman has passed. And I've never met the guy. I don't have you met him?
Yeah, I've been able to speak to him multiple times because he did a local event here. It's close to Massachusetts, actually Exeter, New Hampshire, where the Betty and Barney Hill incident happened, and he was a very well-known ufologist who would often do events on, there was like a extraterrestrial, or like a UFO day that they have once a year in the summertime. He's wonderful, very, very informed, had been doing research on the topic of UFOs since I don't know how far back. I didn't do the research, but he's a very kind person if you want to talk to him, very good at listening and being open-minded. It had his views on things, and a topic that was very, very much critiqued was the discussion of UFOs publicly. He was very good at substantiating some of the facts that he had and talking about it when it was not popular or could easily have been mocked. And so he really did a lot, I think, for the community, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, he'll be sorely missed by many of his listeners. And but we also had another whistleblower die recently, Duncan Cameron, who was one of the Montauk boys. Well, there's a lot of Montauk boys, but in particular ones that I guess more like the handlers of the project. But he was also in the Philadelphia experiment. Sorry. So do you have any information about Duncan Cameron? Has he reached out to you from the other side?
He has, but I mean, I did spend some time with him, I'd say a couple months back, and I just want to say that Duncan is an amazing individual. He's a really pure, kind soul, and someone that I could see that he was going through a tremendous amount of pain, physical pain from some of his experiences. He shared with me some information. He was looking for some insight, and he opened up to a bunch of a few different people, from what I understood, to help him alleviate some of his health issues. And wonderful individual. I didn't meet him in person, but I did talk to him by phone, and it was usually by landline. Those of you that know him realize that he couldn't handle some of the anything related to like cell phones and electronics. Some of the experimentations and things that they did on him were very harsh on his body, and I could really feel for him. But he had nothing bad to say about anyone. He didn't like complain about the projects or anything like that. And I honestly tried my best to assist the best way that I could. But I did see that he was extremely, one of the discussions we had, we went into this place. It was like a really, really high dimensional place. And he's clearly a very enlightened human. And like I said, he's quite an interesting time traveler. And his connection to, it was his brother, right? Al Bielek. and Al seemed like a very kind soul as well. And the reason I was quite fascinated with Duncan is because years ago, before I even knew much about the time travel issue, I mean, I understood it. I just didn't really hear too many people talking about it. And when I saw that Al was talking about it, he told his story. I had already seen that future reality that he was in. And so I thought that was really amazing to me. I was happy to see that another individual had seen what I was seeing or had experienced it. And the thing that stood out in my mind is the high levels of AI, which I think correlates with something else that we talked about with you personally, James, is a future event with AI. And so this high level of AI and also the control system that they had everyone in, it was very much like a slave system. And then on top of that, there were some other issues where everyone was required to do physical labor, some type of labor. And I remembered hearing in my vision that I had, it was like I could hear it like a loudspeaker. If you do not have a purpose, you cannot survive here. If you do not have a purpose, you cannot thrive here. You cannot work. You must work here, or else you will not live. And it was very distinct to me. I'll never forget that. And when he was talking about how he was required to work, I knew exactly what the situation was. But getting back to Duncan, I can't imagine what it's like to be able to survive the Philadelphia experiment. That alone was devastating to so many other people. And then to further be used to do other missions. The thing that stands out to me too, James, is that your life is not your own when you're a part of these projects. You're required to do what you're asked to do, and that becomes a problem. You can't pursue some of the things that you want. And I'm noticing also a trend where many of these soldiers are not out in public. They come out a little bit and then they retreat back. They need their privacy. They need to deal with some of the everyday things that they're confronted with. So with that said, I mean, I thought it was, I'm grateful that I was able to meet him, and I have seen him on the other side already. He seems to be doing well, and he did ask me to help or convey that he was trying to help a situation that is happening to many of the people that were part of the projects, and that's this looping effect. And so like the movie Looper, where you kind of continue to do the same thing over and over again and can't quite pull out of that situation. So you have some pictures of him.
Yeah, I'm trying to open this up here. My computer will respond. There he goes. All right. So in 2014, I had an opportunity to go to New York, and I got to meet with Duncan Cameron and Preston Nichols. And so I had this session. Duncan lives on, he lived on this barrier island right off the coast of Long Island there. And so when we went out here, he did this session on me, and what we're seeing here is that he would walk around me in a circle and ask for me to look at him in the corner of his eye, or corner of my eye. And I'm not quite sure what he was doing. And I think he just put his hand on my arm right there. I don't even remember what he was saying at this point. But afterward, he put his hand in the bay right behind him, and the bunch of ripples appeared in the water, and it just expanded and grew, and then the whole bay had all these waves. So I just found that very interesting. I don't know exactly. I can't say anything specifically changed in my life after that, but I do really appreciate the experience that I had, and he'll be. It's a great loss that we lost
Yeah.
some of these whistleblowers, because you know, they went through such horrible trauma, and they never really got, I guess, you call it justice for what was done to them, even though actually they did stuff to us because they were our handlers too. But not, I don't think so much Cameron, but
I can't see him hurting anyone.
and he was his father was high up in the project, and that's how he got involved. And we actually did a reading about this once. You said that, and I was involved in the Philadelphia experiment back in the day. Do you recall us discussing this before, Jessica? You know?
Yes, I do. There were a few people that there was another person that introduced me to Duncan, who was there in the Philadelphia project experiment, I should say. I don't know why I keep on bubbling over that. And yeah, you were there, but you were there in a different form. So like a previous life or a different body. And I think that the ones that went through that experience then came back again as this next generation of super soldiers. So somehow they got rehooked in, and this is what I'm talking about, is, you know, this, it keeps perpetuating in a way. But the experience that you probably had, you know, the ripples is, you know, he was in these fields of energy. And when I was talking to him, we went to like a very high level dimension, and it was like very close to the source energy. I mean, really, really powerful.
Yeah. Well, do you have, is there, I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but is Cameron coming through right now? Could you possibly ask him?
I could see him, but he's not saying anything, and he hasn't said a whole lot to me, other than he would like to see people break free from the system, because something that we discovered in our discussion yesterday is that there's some kind of automation in the projects. I don't know who's in charge of the projects right now. I don't see anyone there. It looks like they put it in an automated, we're talking about the Montauk projects, and whatever it has been watching those that were involved seemed to be automated. And so it was perpetuating something. And like you said, that there was, I mean, you can share what some of the problems were that you were explaining to me.
Yeah. So I was getting these needle marks, which I get virtually almost every day, sometimes twice a day. And so we were exploring like the source, and of course I heard all sorts of different reasons, but this one is kind of unique in that you said that it appears some kind of AI that's running Montauk is preparing people to be used on missions. And we get these DNA injections. Some of them, they gather a DNA, I guess, for clones. You never did make that very clear, Jessica, what the tie-in with human cloning. But so they basically got me on standby mode continuously, even though I'm not really being sent on missions. Well, maybe I am, but not as much as I would think. And as a result of these injections, and they're done astrally, so they must be teleporting the whatever they're shooting me up with, or taking, you know, samples out. So there are side effects such as memory loss, being tired, not, I guess, being more domicile, not questioning the system, scattered thoughts. And I think a lot of that can, of course, I do question the system quite a bit, but maybe I would question a little more if I wasn't being drugged so much. And essentially, you said that there were these Draco in an underground lab in Inner Earth that have taken over this AI, and they're running this program, and they want to dominate the planet. So they're still in charge of all this, but is that essentially what you saw?
I saw like an underground base, and where the Draco had access, and it was abandoned. I don't know. I felt like it was a government base at one time, but then was taken over. And they were, you know, further using the technology to access, you know, what some of the projects were. And probably that's how they jumped in. They could even jump in the past. They don't need to, just, if they took over, I'm seeing like 1980s, around 1980s that they were accessing it, and then they probably went back in time as well. But I'm seeing that they were tampering with it. But this AI I saw was perpetuating these programs, and I felt like those that were in charge are not so involved anymore. It was really strange. So I think that's when Duncan came through, and I could see him, and he said this is the reason why he wanted to stop this looping effect and allow people to step away from it, since it doesn't seem to have a direct purpose.
And you said Duncan has a message for us. He says we should all be free. At least I guess I'm referring to people at Montauk, but of course I'll be nice. We're all free. And he says these projects do not serve humanity. And he says that he has no problems with people being super soldiers and helping humanity, but not just being turned to a slave.
Yeah, to be part of this where they're just going through this pain without a cause type of thing.
All right. And I guess at this point we could probably move on, unless there's anything else you want to go into the maybe. How about you want me? I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Maybe you could mute? Wow, mute your mic. Wow. I don't know what the deal with that is, but anyway. So what I'm gonna I want to share a little bit about. So when at least when Al Bielek went into the future, there were two different timelines. I think he went like 200-300 years, and in that particular timeline, there was cataclysms, and the Mississippi Delta region was basically part of the Gulf, and the United States was cut in half. And but there was also mass sterilizations where women stopped producing babies around 2001 going into 2010. Almost like no children were being born, and the planet had a massive drop in population. So I don't see that timeline necessarily taking place. And then there was another timeline where he went like 500, 600 years into the future, and there was these floating cities, and they were all being operated by this AI, and it was like entirely 100% socialism, where everything was being provided for them, but people lost really a will to live, and it's like they don't have a purpose if everything's just given to them. So there's no creativity, no incentive to innovate or move forward. And then so that way, going into that future, I don't know, 1,000 years in the future, then they saw humanity cease to exist. So it didn't seem too good either. But there are these AIs from our future that are coming back in time, trying to infiltrate and to try to stop and turn around what's going on today. So there's a battle and there's a fight going on, and we don't necessarily see it because not everything is about super soldiers. There's other aspects of all this, but I personally think we're on a positive timeline. So let Jessica, unless you want to make a comment, is there anything you want to comment about that, or should we move on?
I think we talked about this AI that you called Mother, but it was like like an automated. Here again, it's the automated AI that is just programmed to do certain things, and it's perpetuating that program, whether or not that it should be obsolete or it originally had a purpose but no longer pertains to what the need was at the present time. So we're looking at this was also affecting you in your future and you personally, James. And so I had seen it, and others have seen it with you, where you were kind of being a super soldier in the future, but they're trying to resolve something and coming back. And I spoke to you once before in that scenario, and then someone else had mentioned that it was they called it Mother, but this is this overseeing AI. I mean, we could call it Alexa. We could call it whatever name we want. It's kind of already here, isn't it? Oh, can't hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Now, you said I don't know if this was you were channeling Al Bielek, but I have here in my notes that you said he told you once we get everyone out of the loop, they can shut the AI of the future down. And so they hook us all into this AI in our future and this program to control. It's neither good or bad, but we're all kind of like stuck in this looping program, similar to the movie Looper.
I believe that was Duncan. I believe that was Duncan that said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
But I did feel like I was communicating with Al Bielek too. It was really, yeah. I mean, both of them were trying to help out the situation.
has Al Bielek ever communicated to you before?
No.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, this was the first time.
All right. So yeah, that's essentially all we had on that topic. So I guess we can go ahead and move on. So another person that has died recently is Isaac Kappy, and you referred to him as the Wandering Jew. Why don't you? Of course, Isaac Kappy helped expose some of the pedophilia that was going on amongst the Hollywood's elite, in particular, was it Tom Hanks? And I think there was a few. Steven Spielberg was a pedophile, which I guess is quite shocking considering he worked on some of the early disclosure movies, E.T. and so on. So
and a lot of AI too.
Yeah, so we all thought that he was a good person because he was trying to bring about some soft disclosures, but maybe I don't know, maybe he's not necessarily a white hat.
People get hijacked too. They start off with good intention, and then there's the powers who want to stop them.
Right. Well, do you think Isaac Kappy was telling us the truth? You think these people really could be pedophiles?
Oh, I mean, it's such a it's kind of like it's part of a culture, you know, and in order for people to be in that environment, if it's common for people, it's like peer pressure in high school. And I think that as you're, you know, wanting to climb the ladder, I think that those that were in power would put people in situations where they didn't even know what was happening, or you know, kind of slowly got, you know, realized that they, in order to be a part of it, they had to be joining in. And I think people that recognize that. So could I prove it and say that they were? I mean, I think people understand that this activity's been going on. It's been going on for a very long time. I mean, you can even say that about the Roman Catholic Church, which got very exposed in the region where I live in Boston. And there were lots of lawsuits and so forth. And I have, you know, a lot of personal interactions with people that can attest to things that had happened to them when they were children, you know, regarding priests and so forth. So getting back to the day that Isaac Kappy died, I was in the car driving, and my communication came through saying that Longinus had died. Now, Longinus is the one that was supposed to be the Roman soldier that put the spear through the side of Jesus, you know, right before he was ready to die. Supposedly that was something that they did regularly, where they you know, help them to die in the end. It was supposed to be merciful. And so that spear, you know, is legendary as far as having some kind of power to it. But they said that to me, and then I read about Isaac Kappy, and I heard Wandering Jew, and so there's this legend about this other person. I believe they called him a Hazarus, and he, when Jesus was walking by with the cross, supposedly this individual made a comment to him and told him, you know, that he wanted to give him a hard time for doing all of this. And then it was sort of like Jesus said that he would have to roam the earth for like a couple thousand years, or roam the earth. And then when he finally dies, that it will be the end. Okay. So I thought, well, that whole story was really weird, and I just couldn't shake it. I can't prove it. I'll tell you, I cannot prove it, but I did hear it. And what was interesting is that some of the last words of Isaac Kappy was leading up to what, like, wait till you hear what's going to happen. And like he knew about it. It's a very, very interesting story. He was supposed to have, traveled around the world. He would show up in different countries. People would find him interesting because he always had these stories of history. I could see Isaac Kappy traveling and, interacting with all different types of people and, having discussions and sharing stories. You can see that he was comfortable being in front of the camera.
Yeah, but he never claimed to know Jesus or anything.
No, he didn't.
So what makes you think that he's the wandering Jew?
That's what I was told.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I cannot prove it, but what is interesting was his last statements of, it was almost, if this is supposed to be I said, no, I'm going to step back a little, because I don't believe that we have to go through the apocalypse and all of the revelations experiences. And I know some people get upset because they feel like it's a part of our destiny and we have to fulfill this. And from my perspective, we don't have to consent to any of this. We just need to awaken. And once we awaken, we don't have to go through this experience any longer. But it's almost like a script, and I don't know how to say it, but these events are like a script. And when they decide to change the script, we have a mud flood, or we have, a new world order, or we have something that they initiate. So the end, meaning not the end of the world necessarily, but maybe the end of a period of time, of a certain type of paradigm or whatever, and then it opens up to something else. So, like I said, I don't have any proof, but if someone asks me, do I believe he was the wandering Jew, I will say yes. So, and probably some people will not be happy with that. Some of the things I can prove, some of them I can't prove, other than the chain of events that are occurring and the time that we're going through right now. So everyone's waiting for Jesus to appear. Maybe it was for this incident to happen. But this leads up to some of the other discussions that are coming up that we're going to talk about.
So apparently he was pushed off a bridge or something, or he was hit by a car. Do you know? Or maybe it was on a bridge. I don't know how he died, but
during his, I did listen to what he had to say, and he was very discreet in what he said. He just pretty much came out and said that he was exposing people, and he said that he was foolish. He did something bad. I think that they kind of hooked him into something. He didn't confess exactly what it was, but he said he did something very bad.
You mean this right here? And then he's talking about the Q movement.
Yep.
He's apologized to the Q movement, and he says, "I've given enough rope." But and he says he's hung himself. This just doesn't seem like something he would write. Do you think he wrote this?
I think when he said he hung himself, it wasn't meant literally, but pretty much that as he was trying to expose these guys, they kind of snared him in a way that he was going to be like he was caught doing something as well. That was compromising his whole effort to expose them. I think something happened. He doesn't say exactly what it is. And I think this is the whole, revealing kind of like the weakness or of the frailty of how anyone can be tempted, anyone can be in a situation. There's no one above another. I think he was trying to do the right thing. I think he was trying to see things exposed, but I also think that he was talking about how he was isolated and alone a lot too.
Well, do you think it says here according to this article that he was suicidal? Do you think he was really suicidal?
I think he was frustrated. I'm not sure if he was suicidal. This is another thing that, because we talked about Stanton Friedman, and we're talking about Isaac Kappy, and both of them, their deaths, were kind of uncomfortable. To be honest with you, Stanton was, just talking to people, and yeah, he was older in years, but I guess he just got off the plane and then he died or something weird like that. So you do wonder. I mean, there are those that do not want people talking. And so it makes it very much a gray area as to whether or not, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here and say, well, enough people wanted them dead. We'll put it that way. You're not allowed to talk about UFOs in the U.S. to a certain degree. And you're not supposed to point fingers at Hollywood stars. There are repercussions to some of this stuff, and they're not really makes some good enemies. And so, yeah, anything could be put off as suicide.
Yeah. So this right here is a post by Tom Hanks. Said historic Route 66 roadkill. I hope not, Hanks. And of course, Isaac Kappy died on Route 66. And this was almost like, I don't know, I can't read the date. It says April 4th, I think, on here. It's kind of blurry, but it's almost like, of course, Tom Hanks, I mean, it made it into the Google and Twitter search. And so, I mean, clearly Tom Hanks would have known probably that this guy was trying to smear his name.
Yeah.
And
There's also an incident of Paris Jackson, too, that supposedly he had choked her. Yeah, which was also no one's explained why that what that was about, and that also could, you could create some enemies, but if the energy that the walk-in that was in Isaac Kappy was this wandering Jew, then the thought of loss is more of, it's almost like a time traveler. They're kind of like an immortal, so they're not really afraid of dying. He didn't look like he was afraid of anything, in my opinion.
So Tom Hanks put this picture, this red handkerchief, and I don't know if this was the day of the event or what that he died. So and I guess there's some kind of symbolism of him being murdered. I don't know if you have any information. Do you have any information on that?
So like what do you do with something like that? Bandana, you put it around your mouth. It's red.
I think the color red might symbolize murder, maybe. And then there's this glove. So, huh.
I mean, he put himself on the line going after. So, anyone that is trying to expose people is putting themselves on a line, especially people that you think, well, they're celebrities, they're not military, but they have resources and money to be persuasive enough,
Yeah.
to tell people to be quiet.
Well, what is your opinion? Do you think Tom Hanks is guilty? Do you think he is a pedophile?
From what I've read, it looks that way.
Yeah.
That there was a woman that came out. I think she was a young girl. I remember reading that story. I don't remember what her name is.
Is there a way you can reach out to Isaac and maybe ask him if he could join in and communicate with us?
I can ask. I think I could see him. Here again, he's like shaking his head. I don't know if he doesn't want to talk. He seems sad that he's not here. It's almost like everything that happened is like spinning in his mind. Like maybe he would have done it differently. I think he would have done things a little differently. Seems to be a little bit of frustration, but he's not saying anything.
Well, can he confirm that he was telling the truth, that Tom Hanks really was, from what he experienced? He actually witnessed him with children doing stuff?
He said everything that he said was the truth. That's what he said.
And does he have any information whether Tom Hanks is going to be brought to justice, and Spielberg and all these creeps?
He's showing me 5 years. Maybe that's within the 5 years, some things are going to change.
So I guess for the time being, that they got away with it, and maybe it'll go to their heads, Tom Hanks and all these folks, that they're above the law.
He says no one ever gets away with it. I mean, these are spiritual infractions of things that are I think we become our own judges in the afterlife anyhow.
Can he comment about whether he was committed suicide or if he was murdered?
He said, I did not commit suicide.
And can you tell us who he think tried to kill him?
He didn't recognize who he was. The man was dressed in black. Some black pants, black jacket. Almost made him look like he was like a man in black, but he wasn't.
And if he can get an idea of who that guy might have worked for, like who would, like what group, maybe, if he has any idea.
It feels like it was not from if it was not from this planet who he was working. Who was ever over Hollywood is not directly related to this planet.
Maybe like Monarch.
Something. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because it looked weird because I tried to trace it back and it was.
Can you comment? Can you ask him if he could comment about the Wandering Jew story, if that's really him?
He said he met thousands of people over the years, so I guess he's not denying it.
Yeah. Okay. Say, I guess, sorry for your loss. We'll be sorely missed. Thank you for your sacrifice. I hate to say it that way. It's not. We don't need any more sacrifices. What we need is, we need brave people, but we don't want them dead either.
He said that he will be back, which I think is interesting. He's very positive. He felt like he fulfilled his role, and I think I'm starting to think about how many we've lost over the past, was it 6 months or a year, of some of these super soldiers. He said that there was someone else that had passed that was related to, who was it? There was another one we were talking about yesterday.
There was Preston Nichols, but I think he died on October.
There was another someone that helped, I guess, was more in the background. There's quite a few that are in the background, but yeah, we've had a few losses there. I think he's hinting that also has been done on purpose, so there's no witnesses to some of the things that have been happening.
Right.
They carry information.
Ask him what he thinks will happen to Hollywood once word gets out that Tom Hanks really was a pedophile and Steven Spielberg, and pretty much most of Hollywood is rotten to the core.
He said it's really not just about those two. He says it's about many of them. He said people are just starting to realize that it's due to a lot of people having the courage to speak out, and that people are starting to be more vocal about what's going on there, and it will help to weed out, those that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so that I think that they're going to have some those monitors or whatever he said, but there's the system that's been protecting all of them for a very long time. And he said that's really when things will break. And I think that's what he was talking about, 5 years.
Do you think Hollywood will even survive as a video production powerhouse?
There'll be different people that will raise up and take the place of those that didn't have any discretion.
Yeah.
But there'll always be temptation. But he's implying that it's these ones from off-world, which I think is probably, like you said, Monarch, but working with the others that are took advantage of humanity in that way.
Yeah. Is there anything Isaac Kappy wants to share? Something that I didn't even think of asking about?
He said, don't believe everything that you see in the movies regarding, he says they are disclosing things, but not everything is going to come true.
You mean, so you're like the end of the world?
Apocalyptic movies and things like that.
Oh, like the end of the world. So we're not at, are we at the end of the world?
He said we're at the end of a season. We're at the end of a season. Like, in other words, it's just a shift in a paradigm. So,
Can you ask him about Paris Jackson? What happened? What's the deal?
He doesn't want to talk about that.
Okay.
I don't know if there was some kind of romantic interest or something.
Well, could you talk about Michael Jackson? Because I know you mentioned Michael Jackson and Spielberg were friends. Does that mean Michael was a PDO?
He says, yeah, you don't want to go there either. He says, I mean, pretty much. Yeah.
And then nothing too positive about Michael Jackson there, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it was just it's an environment that, like I said, it's like, you know, the kids sitting around like in high school and peer pressure, and one smoking so the other smokes, and then, you know, just one drinks, another one drinks, and, you know, it just keeps escalating. And you know, through peer pressure, it just was acceptable. A lot of things were acceptable.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have been.
Well, are you ready to move on, or is there anything else you want to mention about this?
Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Isaac, and thank you, Jessica. We wish you best on your journey, wherever that may take you.
He said, I'll be back. He keeps on saying, I'll be back again.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll probably have to wait about a couple decades, maybe. Or is it sooner?
He said it may be sooner.
20 years or less?
Less.
Okay. All right.
You can reinsert people. Right?
Reinsert people? You mean like a clone body?
No.
A walk-in?
Yeah, the way that walk-ins can come in, as well as like, you know, even if, like, how the Milabs can take you and then you have no missing time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think he still wants to jump in and be involved. So he might come in another capacity.
Yeah. What does he think about Tom Hanks's Twitter post about Route 66 roadkill?
I mean, he's not surprised.
Yeah.
It's to be expected, or something like that, he said.
Yeah.
It's to be expected.
Yeah. I wonder what like Tom Hanks thinks about all this. I mean, he must think that he's so powerful that he can just do whatever he wants. It's just kind of.
I think, like many of the celebrities, they're like, well, why pick me when all these other ones are doing all this other stuff?
Oh, I see.
So they, in comparison, they probably see that it, you know, others have done things, or it's a smear campaign, you know, and they see their competitors as trying to ruin their credibility.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, no one wants to be on the spotlight, but yeah, this stuff has to get exposed.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. So at this point, I think we should talk a little bit about the RV. In particular, I know you don't really have any good news about that because we have talked about it a little bit in the past, and that's the revaluation of the currency with these prosperity projects. And you believe that we're not going to see it happen, and it's being used as a ruse to trick people or redirect their focus away from what's going on in Europe. Is that correct?
Well, I said that it's not going to happen. It might not happen in the dynamic that everyone's expecting it, because there has been so much confusion about what's going on with the EU, and they are trying to initiate certain things, but then other problems are coming in. So uh, we just need to set the highest intention for humanity. And, I wear the symbols all the time. It's just to hold on to what we want for our reality, because those other systems are breaking down. It's time to reinsert what we want. So if the old system had it set up in a certain way that we were supposed to have this reevaluation of money, then, continue to hold that idea. If you're holding on to just everything is gold backed, then think about everyone who has gold right now. Those are the ones that are going to be wealthy. And so, and everyone else is, so there'll still be an imbalance. So we have to set something where, it's a balanced system for everybody, not just, everyone has everything that they need, which is in the introduction of free energy, and not so much having tons of money, but having, the things that are innate to us, or that were given to us by the universe, and that is harnessing the sun, harnessing the wind to get the things that we need to run our households, so we're not spending a lot of money. And, having pure food, having an abundance of everything that we need. So what more do you need, And so not leveraging a powerful family over the rest of the world, but rather that there is, and this is not, I'm not promoting socialism or fascism or anything like that, Marxism, none of that. This is just the human way of living, and that we all should have access to the basic things. And if a person goes above and beyond that, works very hard, then they get whatever else they need, or they put more thought into it, or invent, or have some positive thing to add to human global living. So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen exactly, because I think it's the very system that has been causing this pain and imbalance might have even came up with this whole idea to then just redistribute the money again, or create this reset where the money ends up going back into their hands again. So we have to stop this cycle, and in the process that's sort of happening, which is going to lead up to some of the other things that I was saying.
Yeah, like for instance, if the RV took place of the dinar, apparently the Bush family owns the most amount of those
Right.
dinars, so they'll just recapitalize, sorry, the so-called New World Order for the next 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be done in such a way that the money goes to people who are light workers, and preferably people who actually care about the planet. But okay, so what about this thing about the RoboCops in France? What's that?
Okay, so there's been mention about that. France is no longer owned by the French. I mean, literally, Macron has stepped away. I've been talking about the yellow vest for a while. I have a friend of mine who is from Belgium, and he is able to translate. His name is Chris. He's able to translate what some of the YouTube videos are, because their news is not talking about any of this, and France, of course, does not want the information to get out. Macron incarnation, or kind of a reflection of Dionysus, and he has an inflated ego, sees himself also as a king, very Napoleon-like, and wanting to be praised and worshipped, and was literally insulting his own people, calling them toothless, immigrants, and not immigrants, but toothless, ignorant people that he didn't need to listen to. And so they got to a point where they could not have a living wage. They increased the cost of gas, and so it further exacerbated a situation where people are living not week to week, but actually not having enough throughout the month to pay for their food and all the resources that they needed to support their family. So the people began to create the Yellow Vest movement, and they were out there protesting. And they were supposed to be doing peaceful protests, but the police became very aggressive and started to actually, like, they had these rubber bullets, and they were shooting out people's eyes, and they were aiming at, males, females, young, old. They were arresting children like the age of 13. I saw footage of a young woman being dragged in the street by their hair. So they started calling them RoboCops. They said they have no emotion, no conscience. That some of them do not even speak French, and so they feel like the EU had sent them. At some point, at some point, I guess that Macron told Merkel that, hey, I don't know how to deal with this. People hate him. And so he's like, pretty much gave Germany carte blanche to come in and do whatever they want. So I'm not sure if it's Germany or the EU in particular that are sending these, they call them RoboCops. There was another woman that also said, she was like, I guess, a lawyer or, in a judicial position, and she's actually fled to England now, and she was claiming that she was calling this the Fourth Reich. So it's become really, really terrible. I guess that it's become quite violent. And then recently, a group came in from Africa calling themselves the Black Vests. And they went into the Charles de Gaulle airport, started to demand. They didn't have any passports. They didn't have any IDs or of any, that would be required internationally for travel. I mean, any of us that have traveled realize that things are very strict. Usually you have to support a passport, and this is what it looked like. I don't know if you can hear the audio. They all came in, and they did not have the IDs, but they demanded it. They actually blocked.
Are you able to hear the audio when I play it?
I can't hear the audio, but maybe.
Okay. I don't know how to put it in the feed, but man, I wonder if there's a way to do that. Switch to I suppose you don't know either. Okay, there's like an audio feed from the computer. I'm not sure if it's same as system, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to hear it, because I think that the people, you can see their fists raised. I think that the people that they were pretty much like a deer in headlights. They were like, "What in the world's going on here?" It's like they took over the airport.
I'm gonna take my headset out and play it that way. It's
okay.
You there, Jessica?
So they wouldn't let, when people were coming in on their flights, people couldn't get off their plane.
Hold on. What's that?
When people were getting off their flights, they couldn't come off their plane. They couldn't go on their flights. They were protesting. They demanded to speak to the head of not Macron, but Edouard. But anyhow, so I guess that the head of the airline, not the airlines, but the airport, spoke with them to get them to calm down, and allowed them, from what they said, they allowed them to come into the country without a passport. So, if, I don't know, I mean, it sets a precedent for anyone traveling now that, if they allowed them to come in legally without any documentation, they're undocumented, then what does that say about the international airlines? So it's a very serious issue. And not to mention that it looks like these are like a military group coming in to take over France. It's if France does not belong to the French. And so it's something that they see that they're having problems with their government. They see that there are issues regarding leadership, and so they found that France was vulnerable, and this is what's happening. And I suppose this could happen to any country at this point. Now, I know that, I've talked to people from Sweden, and, they've had problems. France, also, I believe it's Serbia, has also had problems. So it's kind of happening all over the place regarding a breakdown of the system, and it's attributing to the EU. So the EU seems to have an agenda, the New World Order, and this is what it's turning out to be.
Yeah, I suppose you can read that there. So they feel they're entitled to this
Yes.
land, and they're not even from there. So what is this all going to lead to? I mean, what do you think is going to happen in France and looking into the future timeline?
Well, you know as well as I do. I mean, this is just like the Agenda 21 issue. Create a problem, right? Create a problem, chaos, saying that the people are out of control and that they need leadership, and then solve the problem. So there's the slave system, the FEMA camps or whatever, you would interpret it as. And so this definitely plays out a situation that is very serious.
Right.
I think it sets a precedent in a way, and if here are these RoboCops are very violent towards the French people, but here their airport just got stormed, taken over, and look at how quiet and docile they're just like standing there guarding it. They don't have all of their rubber guns out there, rubber bullets, and doing all that other stuff. So you're looking at
Like the French protesters.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's like they knew that they were coming and they had to play along with it. I don't know.
So it's almost you're suggesting Marson is
Macron.
I call it Marson. Is
Okay.
it Macron?
Macron, yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Either way, but he must be allowing this, or like he's the puppet master and he's playing everybody.
He seems very indifferent toward his own people, almost as if he's not a part of them. And yeah, or like he's in the pocket of someone else because the people don't feel that he cares anything about them. And like you said, why would they be so come in like a bunch of like a military group, other than that they're going to use it to probably cause further problems for the French people. Pushing them. He told them he was going to have them replaced, or that they would have to step back and they're going to bring in some other immigrants. And so it's almost like this was our nation. Our ancestors helped build this nation. We've been here for years, and it's not even a war. They're just telling everyone to just sit back and let others come in and take the fruits of their labor, come in and take this country. And I feel the same thing is happening to California, with all the fires and everything, that they're setting a stage for something. And, like we're supposed to just passively sit back while displacing all the people and then having whatever else that they want to have in place of it. So, I mean, I guess this is what makes me very unpopular for saying this stuff. It's not a good thing, but somebody has to say it. We have to say that it's not allowed. And even if a world leadership gets into debt somewhere and to a point where another nation is claiming land, I mean, it's a game. It's a game. You don't have a right to do that. That's why I'm saying the RV is a little hard to look at when you see that, Obama was selling out parts of our U.S. So,
I want you to. I don't know if you. At least some of our listeners have heard about this. Marcone, he wanted to raise the gas tax 30 cents from $7.06 per gallon to, I guess, it's 77.36. So the issue with this is in particular farmers, they rely on fuel to run their machinery.
right.
But there's a worldwide set food prices. So if they have to pay more and more money to farm, then they can only get a certain amount of money, and as a result, the farmers are going bankrupt. That's basically what's going on here. And so France is gonna, they're losing their farming sector, and they're gonna basically have starvation if they don't, with these policies. So it almost seems like surely the president there must know what he's doing. How can he be that dumb?
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's definitely pushing them over the edge. And when they complained and they thought that he would listen to them, he came back and then added another surcharge.
Yeah.
It continue to oppress these poor people, and like I said, they've been so brutal.
How can they justify paying almost $8 for a gallon of gas? It only costs 30 cents to get it out of the gallon? Out of the ground, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 80 cents by process. It all kind of depends on whether, it's like shale or actually comes out of the, out of the ground or from an oil rig in the ocean. But still, that's a massive, somebody's making huge profits off of these people.
Yes. And where's all the money going?
Yeah, it's probably going into the banks and to the Rothschilds. They all got little slush accounts where it's that cash flow is financing all their derivatives for their off-world bases and everything.
They're doing something with it, but the people aren't getting it.
That's right. It's shameful. Well,
I will say that I've been in Paris.
Yeah, well, the French people, they're amazing people, and
I went there before this happened, before the mess happened, and when I was there, probably was last spring. People were walking around. The police were walking around with what looked like machine guns.
Right.
I was like, well, what in the world's going on here? It was really, really a strange experience because, like you said, you hear about in this video. This gentleman talks about zero hedge. He talks about how he starts off like baguettes, good coffee, and just sitting there and watching people go by. He said, "What happened to those days?" And I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about. All the tourists looking at the Eiffel Tower, and the Arc de Triomphe, and then I made another visit while the Yellow Vests were going on. I was overseas, and I traveled throughout all of France. And it is beautiful. It's a beautiful place, of course. Of course, somebody wants to have their hands on that area. There's a lot of farmland. It's magnificent if you go down and you travel, beautiful landscape.
Well, what can you comment about the Notre Dame? Do you have any information about the recent fire? Do you think that was intentional?
I saw a video. Someone had it looked like proof of that this was already preset.
Is this the video here?
Yeah, that he has dates there to show that they were talking about the destruction or the fire of Notre Dame before it happened.
Maybe there was a problem with maybe how it caches the data.
It could have been. But I thought it was quite interesting. And but not to mention, I think there was it iGoat or I something goat, and they actually had like a cartoon rendition of the cathedral burning down, exactly how the tower fell. And I can get that video and you know, I forget, yeah, I pick out, that's
iPad.
it. And there is video footage there of the spire collapsing, exactly how it happened. And I'm not sure what date that was, but it was definitely in advance of it.
Hmm. Oh, that's actual that's actual photo there, but okay, I guess this is probably what you're referring
Yeah,
to. Huh.
yeah, you see it? See, it's exactly the
So
same.
so what do you think? Well, if it was intentional, why would they want to burn down such a magnificent building?
I guess according to my friend who's been researching some of this stuff, he said that that they had uh, he gave me the dates and everything too. I can't recall it right now, but if you listen to some of my Yellow Vest interviews, then you'll hear more details from Chris. But he said something to the effect that Macron had already made plans years ago and said that the cathedral is going to be flat on top and that people can walk along the top of it. And so people are like, well, what are you talking about? Well, why would that happen? So, you know, he was already taught, they already had plans of
Oh,
restructuring the cathedral.
so he wanted to remodel the cathedral and do it
Mhm.
in a way that doesn't look like it was an accident.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot going on with Macron. I don't think anyone should ignore what he's been doing. And I'm very, very suspicious of some
Well,
of
I mean, if word gets out to the public that he's sabotaging buildings, and I mean, surely,
he's
I
giving
mean,
away his nation, allowing other countries to
that could
come
lead
in
to
and
civil
rip them.
war.
It is a civil war essentially right now.
But I don't see it getting any better. I mean, once the fire ignites, you can't just put somebody else in office and have it turned off. It's going to take a long time for people to stop being angry.
People are more than angry. I mean, it's denigrating what they've gone through. I mean, just horrific
I mean,
human rights offenses. If you look at some of this stuff, it wasn't supposed to get out to the public. Horrendous human rights offenses. People are supposed to be allowed to peacefully protest and be in harmony with it, you know, their leadership, and the leadership should show a level of responsibility. I've never seen such a blatant disregard for their own people. It's almost as if he is either completely hijacked, completely out of his mind, or someone has him. You know, he's there as a puppet and doesn't know what he's doing, or he just is that like narcissistic. I don't know.
maybe he's one of these androids that
Could
Peter
be
talks
an
about.
android. Yes, seems very, very insensitive to his own people, and
Mm.
it's just not natural. And it's not natural the way these RoboCops are acting either. And you know, that's something to take a look at as well. But it's clear that they have an agenda, and no one is saying anything about it.
Well, we are, but I guess we're not. I mean, I understand, but mainstream media, we're not the mainstream yet, but
Yeah.
it's only a matter of
I mean, there
time.
are also some kind of riots that are going on in England as well, and this.
Oh, here we go. Here's the iPad goat
Yeah,
thing. So it breaks up. It almost looks like it's an ice castle. So
yeah, yeah,
I don't know what he's trying to show here. Some kind of dragon thing. I guess it's a fire.
yeah.
Oh, this is from the looks like a Disney movie. Is this the
Yeah,
Hunchback?
the Hunchback. Yeah,
He's not gonna play. Come on, he's talking. Come on. Well, I'm sure this is probably make all the copyrights on my flag get copyright censored on this one. But okay, so oh wait, here we go. I'm not sure what he's trying to show. So I don't know.
I think it's the spire in particular that you see the spire burns and then goes collapses in the same way as it actually does. It's like, how in the world could you plan that? Kind of like the way the Simpsons have predicted certain things.
Okay.
These are those that know the future.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of our artists are, in a way, they channel with their higher selves to tap into this Akashic field to get
I think
information.
you could say that, yeah. I mean, some of us are looking at it from that perspective, but the ones that are creating these scenarios are not, the regular person. These are those that are wielding agendas on the earth.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on here. So the next one on the topic is, I guess we can go to the Orville Dam. You want to do that? All right, so we got this video here that you sent me. So around 4 minutes. So we got this these trees here that they cleared. I
There
guess.
were trees all on the right hand side. There was a whole bunch. It's like a forest of them, right?
Yeah, but I mean, didn't that all wash away when this? Oh wait, I see it washed away there.
Anyway, that's right.
That's just dumb. You don't want to clear that. That helps stop erosion. Why?
So, yes.
Well, maybe they had. I mean, they would have had to grade the site, but still,
Absolutely.
you don't need to grade that much.
No, they clearly wanted the water to flow in that direction. Why would you get rid of the trees?
Yeah. And so, what is a conspiracy? I mean, what do you think was going on here?
Now that's the way it looked, and then now it's the opposite, where the trees kind of grew on that side, and now we have no trees on the other side. I think, like they said, if it actually does, come apart, which they're not, they're claiming that they don't have the money to do the maintenance. They already had invested a bunch of money in order to rebuild it from the last time that exploded. But here again, it puts all these people at risk, and they would be given approximately 45 minutes to evacuate if something serious happens, where that's not going to be the case. People are not going to be able to get out on time. Also that, it's at a peak level right now, and so people are very concerned. And, these type of things are going on all over the place. There's more than one dam that is in disrepair. So they said that this is part of, potentially, conspiracy theorists say this is part of Agenda 21, where they're just letting things fall apart to create crisis, where then people need to go into a FEMA camp or something. So because then they lost their homes, and then there's other serious problems. But they're talking about, because it's close to the Sierra Mountains, and the Sierra Mountains have snow on it, and since they're able to tamper with the weather, they can create this melting effect that raises the water levels, which pushes things to a limit. So the input and the output are not working. The output is only able to do, I think I had it written down, it was like
Here's the inflow and outflow right here. Look at that. So
yeah,
this is coming in, and that's what's going out. So more is coming in than what's going out right now.
Absolutely, that's correct. Yep. I think there was the outflow about 9,500 cubic feet per second from the spillway. The spillway is inundated and is cracked. It's
813,000 is what? Oh, that's the elevation.
Yeah. So let's see.
So it must be. It's like 813 feet, and then maybe the top is 900.
10.5 or 11 is coming in, the difference, and it could be, and it's expelling about 9 cubic feet per second.
Here's a chart, cumulative chart. It's a little bit easier to see.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, hopefully, all that money they spent. I guess you said they ran out of money to shore it up, but I mean, it's been probably 2 years since the last time that thing almost burst. So surely they would have had enough.
There's something with the design, and why clear away all that forest?
Yeah, no, I mean, they got an extra $1.5 billion for that high-speed rail that they never built, that Trump wanted his money back. So I mean, they got plenty of money. It's just like, where's it going?
They can't do if they do the high-speed rail, that correlates to that whole area where the fires were in California.
Oh.
So that was very suspicious too, because all the fires were along that line, and that's why, it's like,
Yeah. Maybe that was one of the reasons why they canceled it. That maybe some of the white knights in our military said, "You're not going to get that money now. You're trying to kill people off."
Yeah, it couldn't, whatever, trying to create this agenda for California. California seems to be specifically targeted. But there's also some really weird weather things happening in the Midwest, and there are people that have been contacting me about that as well. Tornadoes, flooding, and other things that are costing lots and lots of money, especially since that's where a lot of our farming areas are. And so that's been attacked, as well as, of course, California has so many different farms there as well, and they were attacked by fire. So,
Yeah.
we're just looking at all these different things. It's a very, very targeted area for some particular reason.
Okay. Well, let's go on and move on. Is there anything else you want to comment about that?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we had like four different topics regarding California alone. And yeah, I don't know which one.
Was this another one? This gas leak? What is this about?
This is a gas leak that they've never really resolved, from my understanding. High levels of methane. I have a friend.
days.
I have a friend that was in 2015 and 2016. But I do have a friend that lives in LA, and she's been talking about for a while headaches, sickness, nausea. She couldn't figure out what it was. She goes, "This is what it was." She goes, "It's not that far." And yeah, it's something that they've been ignoring. I'm sure that people have been getting sick, but they were really reluctant to bring up this topic.
Yeah, we need another Aaron.
Talked about it. The New York Times. It wasn't even in California.
We need another Aaron Brockovich to go in there.
Yeah.
Explore. But so is there a conspiracy behind this? Is this like something that's like associated with underground base, or what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's a way of, between the smoke. My friend told me that she said between the smoke inhalation from all the fires, constantly, there were all those fires one after another, and then this gas leak. She says that respiratory issues, health issues. It's almost like there's probably a lot of people that are homeless too in LA. So I don't know. Are they trying to clear the area? Probably.
For a new development.
Yeah. I mean, I won't say directly our government. I think there are others involved.
Well, that's why I wish Peter would have joined in, but oh well, we'll just have to ask him next time.
Yeah.
With us. Okay. I guess we can move on. And then there's this jet craft that flew into this warehouse. What's the story behind this?
This doesn't make any sense to me either. It's the Air Force F-16 Fighting Falcon jet that just crashed into a warehouse. It had ammunition on it. So people were driving down the highway and they saw this plane, a military plane, not just like, a plane for, flight airlines and flights, but a military plane that should have control and should be, quite equipped for, all sorts of proper ways of landing and so forth. But it seemed kind of strange the way it just kind of, it's almost like were they planning on having it explode, or what was supposed to happen here? But it was right off the highway, hit a warehouse. What in the world's going on here? And everyone seems to be a little baffled about it. I mean, I'm grateful that nothing really terrible happened. Maybe something malfunctioned. It just seems really odd.
Who posts a video on Instagram? That's dumb. Sorry. Anyway, okay. And then this one, here's a,
That's the warehouse afterwards.
it's a, I guess it's some bike company. So, but what do you think? Is there a association, maybe something like Monarchs brought down one of these planes, or one of the, was it an attack?
Yeah, the way I mean, they had armaments in there. It doesn't sound like you'd think a military person would be better at flying it. Was it stolen? What, no one's really saying anything. Almost like, well, it was just like an accident. And accidents can happen,
Yeah.
but it just seems very strange. Like, was something supposed to explode, or was the plane taken and someone was flying it that wasn't fully equipped to do so and had another agenda? I have absolutely no proof on any of this stuff, but it feels suspicious to me.
Right. Well, if we hear back from Peter, we'll let the listeners know what's going on with that.
Okay.
And then there's also these exercises that are taking place.
Right.
So we got well, any of these, like I know Saber Guardian. The other branch of Solar Warden is Radiant Guardian. So I don't know if that is.
It reminded me of Sabretooth when I saw that.
Yeah, true.
Let's explain what these are. This is the U.S. military joining forces for some type of military exercises, and they have here's immediate response 2019 multinational exercise, right? Co-led by the Croatian forces, Slovenian forces, U.S. Army, in Europe, U.S. Army, and also highlights, here's what they're highlighting, includes airborne jumps, air assaults, and establishment, integration, medical exercises, multinational battalion with forces from 15 nations. It's going to take place in May and June, which is right around now. So you have, let's see, the swift response is Bulgarian, right? Locations in Bulgaria, Croatia, Romania. Also Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania under the Saber Guardian. It's an interesting plans, and you go down further. There's some others.
Astral Knight.
Yeah. They're also going to be in Croatia, Germany, Italy, Slovenia. A joint exercise. The information that I got from people is that they're preparing for some type of protection that's necessary regarding Russian and China military. I don't know if they were getting threats of something like this happening. I got this information from a friend who is in Europe.
So they're not doing any exercises in France, where they probably need to do some, but they're all there in Southeast Europe.
It's interesting. If you look at all of the regions, it's quite interesting.
Okay.
Italy, North Macedonia. Very, very interesting. So they're planning on something.
All right. Anything else you wish to share about that?
I think, like I said, keep an eye on what's going on with the EU and how it impacts the U.S. The U.S. is very much involved, I guess.
Okay. How about your experiences on Mars? You want to share some of with the audience members about what you recently experienced? Was it a dream? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was in the dream space. Yeah, it was it was a lucid dream.
Okay. What happened?
I didn't realize where I was at the time. I have a detailed description of what I was looking at. It was definitely with a crew of people, and I felt that they were all super soldiers. We were walking down a path. The pathway looked like a road, and I thought the road was really strange looking because it wasn't like there was blacktop or anything like that. It was sort of like a dirt road that was somewhat compressed. And and sort of flattened in the surface. And then along the sides of it were like these rocks, kind of creating a road through, creating these lines with stones lined up. And I thought, isn't this a really strange looking road? And I recognized, the people were around me, and we were assessing the location. I knew it was off-world, and so when I woke up, I asked questions, and it was we were on Mars, and we were assessing. It looks like they've changed leadership there, and so so some other things seem to be initiated and doing. I think I was there as assessing, not necessarily in any type of military activity per se. And I also felt that the others were also there, sort of doing an assessment and evaluating the status of everything in the location. It looked like an encampment in a way, and the outskirts of it. And we were kind of walking through the central portion of it. It's like a town. It seemed like it was a bit on the dark side, like not very well lit.
So was this like an alternate reality you might have been exploring, maybe one of your alternate lives, perhaps?
I felt it was real time. I felt it was now. Yeah, and it was off-world now.
Okay. And is this something that you want to maybe try to explore some more, maybe try to go back to that and interface?
I have a feeling that more is going to come up about it, that the changes are about to come about, and I think that more can be done regarding it. And I will say, I don't believe it was Elon Musk that is the new system. I know I bet some people probably were thinking that. I feel like it's something else, and so but I do think that there was some weakness in the status of the previous group that was in control. And like I said, some of these super soldiers that had participated in that have, well, some of them are passing over or whatever, I guess. But I still think that there's that AI or looping effect that is holding some things in place that probably will be released, and then that region will be less hostile for anyone living here on Earth.
All right. Well, thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. And do you have any other final messages you like to tell the audience members?
Yeah, there was another incident that I had, and it was regarding, I had another visitation to a location that was off of Alcyon, and it's another reality. I believe that reality also exists in the same timeline as we are right now. And when I woke up, I kept on hearing El Presidente, and it was much more colorful. It felt like it had a larger population of people. I saw what looked like some type of, not a coliseum, but like, a big, so yeah, something like that, like a sporting kind of arena. I say more like an arena. It looked like it was made out of like metal kind of structure. But there were books everywhere for some reason. There was books displayed. And there was a group of people. They had me at a regressed age in my like 20s or something. And, we were traveling along that place, and I realized that also was being shifted in power. And that I was looking for the 16 people from the Mars mission, and I'm looking for the 15 people from this mission. And I'm sure that I will find them at some point. That is, so when I was sharing with someone, I heard like La Guardia de la Presidente. So it's like those that were watching over the president. And someone said that reminds me of the game Tropico. And so I never heard of the game. So they were pointing out what it looked like and everything. And you said that you were familiar with that game, James.
El Presidente.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time on there, but I guess we all have our inner dictator we have to satisfy every now and then. But yeah.
that it's a location like many of the other video games. Some of them are a bleed through of these realities. So yeah, it could be that people are experiencing this location, which is off of Alcyon, which is a Pleiadian region. And here again, I think it might have been the negative Pleiadians or the 12D Pleiadians might have been running it. Now it's kind of, I felt like I was doing the same thing. I was walking around surveying the area, checking out everything. And so, yeah, I guess it's open up for new visitors. So maybe you're one of them, James. I wouldn't be surprised.
What? They're gonna make me live on one of these tropical islands in Alcyon. I get to be the dictator.
El Presidente, yeah. I guess,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't create the game Tropico, but I guess that's what it sounded like. Well, if they're saying it's the guard of the president, so we would not be the president, and we would be the guard of the president.
Oh, well, usually the guards usually got overrun by all the people every time I play the game. Yeah.
Well, that's not a good thing then.
And then we had a Swiss bank account to hide away on another tropical island. Or like 10% of all the nation's GDP was funneled into it or something.
Well, I mean, maybe that's the way you were playing the game. Maybe it had to be altered or something. That was the old paradigm of,
Right.
of Tropico. Anyhow, on a lighter note, I guess it's good to even though we're talking about some very serious issues, it's good to stay on a positive note. Expect the disclosure and the information. Everyone can take the information and do whatever they want with it, but information is power. You have a better idea of what's going on, and also setting the highest intention for humanity, that with our knowledge that we can set our intentions, that we can shift the timelines, or whatever they were trying to do to us here. So we do have some positive things happening in alternate realities, which do impact us here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jessica, for sharing. And at this point, what I'm going to do is share my screen because here's your website, Readings by Ariel. And so everybody goes, please check her work out. So you want to give a little background info, what we're looking at here?
Yeah, that's my website that should probably be updated, but I've been doing so much. I also have a YouTube channel, and this is Readings by Ariel. When people want to connect with me,
you should put a little YouTube link right here of your social media.
Oh, okay.
So we can access it by going here.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so people, if they want to have a private session with me, they can contact me there. So that's my book, The Seer.
Okay.
I wrote that a bit about some of my early, that was Answers from the Universe initially when I started doing the radio show. So yeah, there's a lot of different things.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
And also, members, be sure to visit my website, Neological Tech, to support the work that I do. Get yourself a meditation cube to help you relax. And also be sure to subscribe to the channel. That always helps out getting the message out there, and like as well this video. And until next time, thank you for listening in, and thank you, Jessica. And
thank you, James. And I just want to say that real quick, visit Jessica at Jessica Ariel Marrocco on YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.